Welcome back to Same Right Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this class, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful double caped pattern Ankara gown, as you are seeing right there on the thumbnail. And you can see I made my gown shorter than what we have on the thumbnail. Okay, so I'll be sharing with you the tips and tricks to making this double bustier cape, as you can see right here. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial to learn the tips and tricks to making this beautiful gown. Okay, so you can see the bustier is doubled, the cape is doubled as well. So stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So I will be showing you how to go about this beautiful cape. So now the first thing we usually do, and which we have been doing in the course of this tutorial, is to have a basic bodice pattern drafting. So the basic bodice pattern I have, this is my shoulder, the chest line, of course by now you know all the lines. So I'm going to divide my shoulder seam line. Okay, so that is what I'm going to do first. So my shoulder seam line right now, I'm going to divide it by 2 equal parts as usual. So this is it. I've divided it, and I'm going to connect this to the bust point. Can you see that? So I've connected it to the bust point. So the next thing I want to do is to design my neckline. So the neckline design goes this way. From this line I just made to the bust point, I'm going to measure 5 inches and I'll make a mark. I'll come out from here, from the natural neckline, I'm going to measure 1 inch and I'll mark. I'll come in with my pattern ruler and I'm going to connect from this point all the way to the 1 inch. Okay, so as I place my ruler, I notice that it won't get up to that 1 inch the way I want it. So feel free to play with your pattern rulers. Okay, so you can see my cape connection. So this cape, there is laying on top of another pattern, okay, which is the different Ankara color. So I'm going to make an extension to that. This is my extension, not actually of the cape but of the part that is laying on. So the extension I just made here, if you notice, I did it, in fact we have different bodies shape anyway, so I will just advise you from this armhole, come out by 1.5 an inch and extend your cape. Once you have come out from here, this line, extend to this line and come out by 1/2 an inch. Simply connect with a straight line to the first dart. Okay, that is the only way we can achieve that beautiful design. So the first pattern has been laid. So we have a pattern on a pattern. So what that means to us is we are going to trace out what we have on the, of course we are going to label them. So after that, I'm going to trace out my cape. So my cape now, I will be choosing how many inches I want my cape to be. So it all depends on you. I'll be using 4 inches for my cape. The width of my cape, that is actually what I'm talking about. The width of my cape, I choose 4 inches for them. So you can see me making my 4 inches mark. And this 4 inches, if you look at it, it went outside the shoulder line. So that is very much okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We are going to trace out this cape and the bodies remain the same. So I'm going to connect following this line. I'm going to make this line perpendicular to my cape. So to achieve that, I'll just go in from the chest line by 2.5. I'll mark my 2.5 and connect it perpendicular, or you can just decide to flow with it this way, or you can just connect to 2.5 depending on how you want that part to flow. So I'm going to connect these dotted lines, which is the shape of my cape right now. So I'll connect them accordingly. And so you can see me playing with my ruler to be sure I have the exact point. So at that point, I'll just use my straight ruler right here. And I'll extend my cape on the shoulder part. So now I have my cape 1. This is cape 2, okay? The one that I'll be laying on top. And then we have the main bodies. So now we are going to contour what we have right here. We are contouring our bust dart, and all that, under bust dart. So for this particular dart, I will be working with a princess dart, okay? I'll be working with a princess dart for it. I wouldn't want to use a shoulder dart, but it all depends on what you actually want. But I'm thinking using a princess dart will be nice for this particular part. So if you want to use a shoulder dart, that means we are going to divide our shoulder seam and connect, okay, making it uniform. So it depends on what you actually want. So from here to here, let me just do the shoulder dart. From here to here, I will divide by 2. So once I've divided by 2, I will connect, okay? So if I have to connect, it means we are separating both parts, this and this, and we are going to sew them back together. So we'll have a line running this way. But if you don't want any line to run there, okay, that means you'll be using your princess dart. So I will make my princess dart. I'm taking my armhole measurement. This is what I have, 10.5. So half of 10.5 will give me 5.25. Then I come down by 1 inch for my princess dart. So I'll come in with my pattern curve ruler and I'll connect the princess dart. So like I said, it all depends on the dart you want. So I'm making the 2, any one you feel like. So I think the princess dart will be okay because I don't want my line, style line to run into and cause nuisance, a sort of. So I will just come out by 0.75 because I want to, my princess dart, I want to accommodate it. By the time I sew it off, of course you see what will happen at that point. So this is that, and we've gotten our dart. So I'm using a shoulder dart for this, while I'll be using, the reason I'm using a shoulder dart is because this is also our neckline. Okay, let me highlight it. The neckline runs from here and connects from here. So don't get yourself confused with that. So all of these are part of the bodies. So I'm using a shoulder dart for ease of joining at that point. So next I'm going to do, this is my center front. I want to contour my under bust. So our under bust contour line, you know how we've been doing it in this class. So I'll be measuring my under bust, and this is what I have. So the remaining is 1.5. I'll be putting 0.25 here, and I'll be putting 1.25. So once that is done, I'm going to place my pattern ruler the usual way we do. I'll flip it this other way, the usual way we do, and then we'll be connecting this to this and this to that. Okay, so we have our under bust contour line for this part. So like I said, we have 2, in fact we are going to trace it. Let me finish so you will see what I'm trying to explain. So I've contoured this part and I will repeat the same contour line. Of course, it's the same thing from here, 0.25, and from here 1.25. That is for my own under bust calculation. So you have to take your under bust very firmly. Whatever you have, divide by 4. You measure from the center front on the under bust line, including your 1.5 inch dart. So your dart is 1.5 inch. so you'll be able to achieve an accurate under bust contour line. So I'll connect this to this, and this I'll connect to this. So we are done with the front bodies right now. Next is to start tracing them. So but before we start, or we can just trace them. Let me just trace them and set them aside. So for my tracing, I'm tracing C1 first. So C1 is what I have on this line to this line. That is the cape. So I place my pattern paper, so you can see I can see through my pattern paper. So I'm seeing the style lines. So what I will do is just to recreate them. Okay, so with my pattern paper I can see through my style lines. So this is it, and that is that. Okay, so make sure you trace out. I'm looking at my tracing whether I did it accurately. So it has to be accurate. So what I'm just doing is to trace. So the same way I placed my ruler when I was making this, that is how I placed my ruler. So I will name here my shoulder, I'll name here my center front, and I'll name here my neckline. So by the time I separate, I cut out, I'll be able to know how to place it. So that is that, and I'll shift it to trace cape 2, and I'm tracing cape 2 following here. Okay, this one is no longer among. From this shoulder line I'm tracing following here up to this point. You can see how my fingers are going. I will go on the red line. Okay, so once I get to the red line, I'll take the princess dart and go back to the armhole. So that is how I'm going to trace cape 2. So I'll shift my pattern paper for the tracing. So for cape 2, we are, make sure you cover your cape. So this first part I want to trace for cape 2. Let me trace the princess, the bustier part first. Okay, make sure you lay it well. Okay, so I'm going to trace out the shoulder seam line. This is the part we drafted. We came in on a straight line, then we placed our curve. So you have to follow all those things when you are tracing. So don't allow your line to move as you trace. Okay, so for this one, I'm not supposed to extend it to the neckline because the original neckline is on this line. I believe you understand what I mean. So I'm not supposed to go because that is not the original neckline. Alright, so we have cape 2. This is cape number 2A. Okay, because the first one, which is cape number 2A, we have another extension of it, which is the part of the princess bag. So for the extension of it, I will simply come this way. I will keep shifting my pattern paper for cape extension number 2, which is the princess dart. So of course here you can see the princess dart. So I'll start from the princess dart line, which is this. Then including the bust dart. So make sure you have your bust dart. So this is the extension of this, and I call it cape 2. Okay, cape 2B. So another thing I want you to note is this is bust point. Okay, it has to be noted because when we'll be sewing this, you are going to see. So I just bring it back to ensure I notch my bust point. Okay, so I bring it back because I really need to make a mark at the bust point. So this is the bust point, and this is my under bust. Okay, so here I have my under bust point. So we are free now. I'm going to cut out these capes, these traces off camera right now. So but before I do that, I will drop the back bodies first so we can cut, or let me just cut what we have right here. Okay, let me just cut now. Cutting out my cape, and I want to place them how it should be. So you can see for this one, I told you need to right the shoulder, neck, center, front, so you know where exactly the cape will be placed. So how we are going to sew this, we are going to sew this first. Okay, so I place the one we are going to sew first. This will come first. So the sewing for this, we are going to is going to have a lining. Okay, it's going to have a lining inside it to turn it. Okay, but the lining is actually going to be a light lining just to give it a good finishing. Then here is this. So that is the first one we will sew, this and this, as if we are making a bustier for this, and later our cape will come and lay on top of it. Can you see that? So you can see the picture of what we are making in this class. So you can see it's already out like it is right there on the picture. So I have this as the upper part of this dress, which would be used with a different Ankara. So we are using a different Ankara print for this. So what I'm going to do here is to close up my bust. So I will close up my my bust that is closed. Can you see? So it makes my bustier complete. So this part of the bustier, we are not going to pad it. The one that we are padding is the main bodies. So we are done with the other color of Ankara. So I will set it aside. Now we'll be cutting what we have here, which is the main bodies pattern. So this is how the main bodies pattern goes. I go through this way. I cut through here. This is the main neckline. So I'll cut the neckline to this point. And then I'll go this way. So once I go here, I'll go here. Remember, we are cutting main bodies. I'll stop at this main part. This is the princess dart for the main bodies pattern. The accommodation of our darts. So I just thought of showing you this particular design, okay? Because capes, you can have your capes in different methods. There's no specific method. So I'll just get here and cut off my waist darts. So you can see I'm cutting the waist dart on the red lines. Okay, so I've cut out my waist dart. So let me close up my bust dart first. Okay, so I have my bust dart closed. Bust dart closed. Okay, so now I will leave this pattern the way it is. I will go ahead with the princess dart and with the shoulder dart. Okay, we'll bring them together to form this neckline. So but there's something I want to do now. The back pattern drafting, you can see the back pattern drafting. I have both right and left, so I'm using this one. I'll be drafting this one because that is where we will be having the back cape. The cape will run into the back. So I'll separate this. I will come over to this. So I have my basic bodice pattern as usual. So what I'm going to do here is just very simple. My chest line, my back length. So I'll just go ahead to contour my back length for the zipper. You know, there's always a zipper. So from here, I'll go in for my zipper by 0.75 and mark. So once I've marked, I'll position my pattern ruler to the neckline like this for a perfect contour line. Can you see that? So next I'm going to do now is to replace what I have. In fact, for this back dress, I'm not working with any dart. But if you want to work with a princess dart, you can just go, you know, and connect your princess dart. But I'm working dartless, so I'm taking off my dart. So I'll be measuring my real waist. My waist is 9 inches. I'll measure it from the contour line, and from the contour line I'll measure my real bust, okay, which is 10 inches. So I'll just connect it with the red line like this. And next we'll do is to create the cape. So for our cape, I'll just bring the bodies like I told you. This is where we have the continuation of the cape. So although we are not supposed to cut out this part, So what I will do, this is what I will do. I'll just bring the cape proper. Okay, I'll bring the cape proper. This is the shoulder line, and this is the shoulder line. So the cape, whoa, this is where the neckline starts and terminates at that point. So my extension for this cape runs all the way to this point. So I'll be creating my cape design for the back the way I want it, and this is how I want it. I want it to run this way from that point to this part, and then I want to make this there's this design that I usually like for my cape. So I'll just go like that. So the measurement from the waistline is 3 inches. Then I'll come in with the curvy part of my pattern ruler. Okay, so you can see the beautiful cape design I have there. I love this cape style so much. So that is my cape, and that is what I'm going to trace right now. So it depends on if you want this. Sometimes this neckline goes deeper. Okay, it's even finer when it goes deeper than when it's shallow like this. But for tutorial purpose, I'll be leaving it like this for you. Then I'll trace out my cape design. So my cape design, which I've just made now, I'll just go ahead and trace it out from here to here. From here, make sure you trace out exactly to here. From here to here, and I'll now come in with my pattern ruler from here to there. Can you see? So I have this as my shoulder. Please ensure you label it, because we are going to even match the cape right now. So I will cut the back cape now, so we'll be able to match the cape. So I'm cutting the back cape from here. So you can see this is an extra class for you. Okay, it's actually an extra class. I just thought of adding this to your class. So if you notice, I didn't cut this line because I'll be applying my adhesive to match this line to this line. So that is how the cape styling is going to look like at that point. So by the time we lay that cape, it falls like that at the back for you. So I'm matching the shoulder lines on the actual line. So make sure they are on the actual line. So that is the cape design, and that is how it's going to look like. So by the time we lay it, I can just, another thing I want to do, I want to see if instead of leaving this as a sharp edge, I can do this. Just look at what I want to do. I just want to blend it up so it won't be a sharp edge at that point. So feel free to manipulate your cape the way that fits you. Okay, so I just apply my adhesive there to recreate just a little alteration anyway, just a little alteration. So I want this part to have this rounded, okay, so it moves on a rounded, you can see, okay, so it does not affect anything. Instead, it even enhances your cape style for you. So since it's going to move on the shoulder, I just want it to move in a rounded form before it comes like this. Okay, all right, so that is okay. Just to make that, you can still leave it the way. Definitely it will give you the same thing. Okay, so what you have on paper, that is what you are going to have on your fabric. So what I just did is this. Okay, okay, so I move. All right, so this is actually what I want on that part. So I will bring back my pattern. So this is where, by the time we sew this on the front and back neckline, everything matches up exactly. You are going to see how this will be done. So I will be cutting my back pattern now. So the neckline for the back goes this way into the zipper. So here we have our zip. Here we have the waistline for the back. I cut through the back and I go through my armhole. Okay, so you can see how I'm cutting through my armhole and I'll go through the shoulder seam line. So this is our cape and the cape is as one piece. So by the time we finish sewing this, we are going to merge this cape, join it on the shoulder to lay for the back and to lay for the front. So whenever you have capes like this, just build them right on the bodies and you have what you want. So I'm done with the back piece with the cape, and for the front piece I'm going to separate them now because we are going to hairstay. Of course I've shown you how to hairstay, so I will not be showing that part. Like I said, this is an extra class to this class, so I'll just simply, so I go in, can you see? So I'll be naming my bust point and my bust point. So this is the bust point and that is how I'm going to join them. And for this is the bust point. Make sure you note all of this. We are going to make notches and our under bust point. So we are making notches on them. So these are the patterns you are expected to have for this, for the front. Of course you have seen the cape. So we have the front, we have the cape for the front. So by the time we bring in the back, okay, so the back pattern is one. Take note of that, is one, but it's the same shape for back and front, the same thing. I'll use this for right and left. So but one will carry the cape. So by the time you sew in your cape, you place it like this. If you are looking at this as your fabric, all I will do now is to stitch on top of it, okay, and turn with my lining, so the cape remains the way it is, as you can see. All right, so we'll be jumping into the sewing class right. First thing you'll be doing is to cut out your patterns. Add your seam allowances accordingly. So I've cut out all my patterns, including my cape, the bustier, everything has been cut, and I'm going to pad right now. So I'm marking out the padding, as you can see right here. So this is how I pad. I'll mark on my pattern and cut it out, then replace it with my padding. So you have to place your fabric on bias before you cut your cape. You can see how I place it like a triangle, and I placed my cape. So I'm adding 1/2 inch seam allowance all around, as you can see, for the outer cape. Of course we have a cape on top of a cape, so I've added my seam allowance 1/2 inch for my padding, on my wadding. So I'm going to place it on the fabric right now. You can see how I'm placing it. So make sure you follow video instructions, because this is somehow asymmetric, so you have to place it the way I placed it. So now I'm sewing my bustier. So I'll be going in by 0.5 inch. You can see how I'm sewing my bustier. So after that is done, I'll give it a notch and then open up and give it a good press. So I'm sewing for both of them right now. So you can see how I'm placing my bustier and sewing. So as you watch this video, follow the instructions. You can see what I'm doing right here to get the bustier. So this is my bustier. Next is to sew the upper cape, which I used a different Ankara for, as you can see on the thumbnail and on the dress I just made. So right now, this is how I sew my cape with my hemming gum. I'll sew at 0.5 inch, as you can see, top stitch on top of it. Then I'll give it a good press after top stitching. So this is the upper cape as you see right now. So I'll also sew the bustier to the cape for the upper cape. So I'll sew it at 0.5 as you see me sew right now. Then I'm going to also place my notches and give it a good press, so you can see it forms it now. So I'll be sewing my cape. So sewing the cape is very simple. Just turn it around, right side to right side, secure with your pins. Go ahead and sew at 0.5 with your hemming gum. I love to use hemming gum to sew the edges of my cape, so it gives it a good and final look after I'm done ironing it. So make sure you sew at 0.5 so you don't alter the cape. So I've given it a notch and I'm turning it. As you can see my turning technique. So make sure you turn the way I turn, then give it a good press as well. So now I'm top stitching my cape, as you can see. So when you top stitch, it relaxes. So everything is ready. The upper cape and the lower cape is ready. So I'll be placing the lower cape, the one on top of the bustier, as you see me do now. So make sure you notch, so it turns for you. That is what I just did right now. Then after that, I'll place the back pattern. Okay, so the back pattern, I've stitched the neckline. Finally, I'll place the cape, but I want to reduce the neckline because I actually added excess at that point. So this is the lining. I'm reducing it as well to match up with the neckline. So I'm placing my cape on top of the neckline. So make sure the part we notched, you are placing it exactly at the notch point. So I'll now place the lining on top of it, seam line to seam line. So make sure you match it up before you sew. So now I'm going to sew with my hemming gum as well. I love to work with hemming gums a lot because it gives me that relaxed finish at the neckline and on my cape as well. So now I'm sewing 0.5 inch on my neckline, as you can see. So I'm going to sew it up to the zipper point. So I will give it a notch. That is what I'm doing, giving it a good notch that will help it relax accordingly. Then you top stitch on top of the lining. So you have to top stitch right on top of the lining, as you can. I'm done with the back and the front bodies together, and you can see I've given my cape a good press, so you can see what we have right there. So we want to start off our fitting issues. So for the fitting issues right now, the usual way I taught you how to fit. So this fitting issue apply to both this and that and the one we have done. So right now I'm going to fit the way I have taught you. by taking all my bust circumference here, divide by 2, taking off the nipple to nipple points, which I have at 7 inches, and I'll also take my waistline just like we have done in the last class. So I'm going to fit this dress right now, so give it a good press, and I'm going to attach the zipper. I'm also going to sew the down part of this dress. So the down part of this dress, I'm making a flay for it. So the down is going to be a flay. So I'm going to use this same fabric to cut my 180 degrees flay. So by the time I'm done fitting the sides, I'll also show you how to go about your 180 degrees flay cutting. So I'm going to attach it on this dress and then sew my zipper. Alright, lovely people, so right now we are done with this dress. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew the down part of the dress. So I had 180 degrees flay cut for this and for lining, and I've attached the zipper as well, as you can see. So this is what the back cape is looking like at the back. So you can see how beautiful it's actually looking at the back. So now you can attach any kind of sleeve of your choice. Okay, so I actually wanted to attach a basic sleeve